What is up, party people? So we are back in Ruth chapter 1. This is section 2. So we're going to be reading through verses 6 through 18 today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how the story progresses, about pragmatism, about God's sovereign plan, and how this chapter continues to kind of set up the story for what happens next. So verses 6 through 9. Ruth chapter 1, verse 6 through 9. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law to return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the fields of Moab that the Lord had visited his people and given them food. So she set out from the place where she was with her 2 daughters-in-law, and they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. But Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, Go return each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. So Naomi's saying, look, we've had a hard run. You've had to, work. You've had to endure this hardship. You dealt lovingly with my sons and with me, and now I go home. Go back to your people. Worship your gods. Go back to your household and find a life that is going to be suitable for you. And then they cry because they're, 3 women going through a rough time. So then there's verses 10 through 14. And they said to her, No, we will return with you to your people. But Naomi said, Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may become your husbands? Turn back, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, even if I should have a husband this night and should bear sons, would you therefore wait till they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is exceedingly bitter to me for your sake that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Then they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. So this next section, Naomi's not having it. She's saying, look, you guys are being ridiculous. Think common sense here. I'm an old woman. I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have more kids. Even if I could have kids, would you wait, however many years, even if it was just 13 years before they would marry, how old would these women be marrying 13-year-old kids? And it's just crazy, right? She's saying this is insane. Go back to your people. And so Orpah kisses her, and it's like, I'm going to go back. And Ruth clings to her, which is a sign that she's not going to let her go. It's a sign of this loyalty, right? It's a little bit of symbolism here. So, verses 15 through 18, and she said, See, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Return after your sister-in-law. So there's this new level here. So Orpah's going back to her people and her gods, and Ruth is not. But Ruth said, Do not urge me to leave you or to return from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. May the Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts me from you. And when Naomi saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more. So here we have a very important aspect of the story, because the book is called Ruth. It's not called Naomi. So we know that Ruth is going to be a large part of this story. But Ruth is not an Israelite. Ruth is a foreign woman. She is a Moabite. She's actually somebody that is at odds with Israel in some ways. And so this idea of her being the heroine, the person that's stepping up and being loyal and loving, would have been kind of weird. It's not the expected thing. And in fact, a lot of Old Testament history, the thing that I like about it is today we're all told that, the victors are the ones that write history and they make themselves look good. Well, what stands out about the Bible is the Israelites and the Hebrews don't go out of their way to make themselves look good. In fact, they have a lot of blemishes and they don't necessarily hide them. And so right here we see Naomi saying, go back, and this foreign woman is saying, no, I'm staying with you. Your God will be my God. I'm going back to the promised land with you. Where you go, your fate will be my fate. You are my family, and I'm not going to leave you alone. And I think this is interesting because there are a lot of legalities around how we treat certain people, including the foreigner, the widow, and the orphan, right? this is a big thing. Naomi is a widow. Ruth is a widow. They are a foreigner. Right now, Naomi's in a foreign land. Later, Ruth is a foreigner that goes to Israel. And it shows that they did not have hope in Canaan, but when they go back to the promised land, that there is hope in the form of people following the law, Abrahamic or Mosaic law. This idea of this being a romantic story between Boaz and Ruth is kind of garbage. This is a very legalistic, not very romantic book, and they point that out in several places. But the idea here is about the law, that by following her God, Ruth is going to run into circumstances where the law is being explained to her. Naomi and Boaz and other characters in here live out the intent of the law. And we see how the law is restorative and leads to reconciliation. Reconciliatory? I don't know that word. But anyways, so this next section, or the section that we just went over, what ends up happening is Naomi says, I have nothing for you. I'm hopeless. I'm destitute. I have no household. I have nothing. And Orpah chooses to go back to her house. And Ruth says, no, I'm going to follow your God. I'm going to die where you die. I'm going to be buried where you're buried. I'm going to be loyal to you, to my family. And so that's where we leave it today. Go ahead and put something, comment down below if you thought something stood out to you, is interesting about this section. Like and subscribe to catch these as they come out. With that, we will wrap up chapter 1 in the next video. All right? Peace.